Welcome to another episode of Seeds of Tomorrow. We travel in Europe and today we are going a bit out of Europe, rather in Switzerland, where we have the pleasure to meet Yolanda Huerta, Vice Secretary General at UPOV. Good morning, Yolanda.
And good morning. Nice to be here.
And in studio with us, we have Francesco Mattina, President of CPVO. Good morning, Francesco.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Before we start, Yolanda, you were, by Seedworld, mentioned as one of the top 20 most influential women in the youth seed sector in 2023, the very same year of your appointment as Vice Secretary General at UPOV. How was the feeling?
Enormous, I would say, honor and challenge at the same time because of the trust that, having members coming together to, decide about UPOV future and the leadership for the organization was really a key message for me about working together, because it was a decision that was taken by consensus. And that really meant a lot for me and the whole team. We have an amazing team in UPOV. So that really was key for us to work towards the building more, I would say, one of our key objectives, that is expansion of UPOV membership, that is key, and also how to ensure that we can play a key role in the global dialogue on the importance of plant variety protection for the benefits of society.
Yolanda, for our listeners, what is UPOV? What do you do? What's its mission?
UPOV is the International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants. It's an intergovernmental organization with its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, and provides, I would say, a space for international cooperation and harmonization. UPOV was established by the UPOV Convention in 1961 in order to promote the development of new varieties of plants by protecting those varieties and then, those varieties becoming available for farmers, growers, and society as a whole.
You mentioned of development. What are the key priorities of UPOV these days in this changing environment we are all witnessing?
One of the key objectives is the expansion of UPOV membership. We are nowadays 79 members of UPOV with the recent accession of Ghana and Armenia. The 79 members of UPOV cover 98 states because we have two intergovernmental organizations that are part of UPOV, the European Union and the African Intellectual Property Organization. So how we can continue to foster international cooperation by having more countries that are committed to provide an enabling environment for the development of new varieties of plants. This is one of the key, I would say, priorities of UPOV.
Mm-hmm. And what are the synergies that exist between the work that UPOV does and the work that CPVO does in promoting and protecting plant variety rights?
The synergies started already long ago, before even the accession in 2005 of the European Union to UPOV. I will say at the time, the European community played a key role even in the development of the latest version of the UPOV Convention, the 1991 Act of the UPOV Convention, that enables not only states, but also intergovernmental organizations with competency in areas of plant variety protection that provide this protection with a legal system binding its member states. So I would say the European community at the time was key to ensure that the text of the UPOV Convention, it was really providing this possibility for intergovernmental organizations to become a UPOV member. Then I would say since the beginning, there has been a very close cooperation and engagement with the European Union and in particular with the key authorities responsible for this topic, both at the level of the Commission, also the CPVO as the agency with competencies in this matter. And this cooperation has really taken different, I would say, dimensions. One of the key dimensions is the actual cooperation in developing guidance, technical guidance and legal guidance at the UPOV level, where experts from the European Union have been actively participated. Another key area of cooperation is in the exchange of information. I would say we have a database that is known as Pluto database. And from a long time, there has been a cooperation with the CPVO to exchange information on applications and grants on plant variety protection. So the fact that nowadays there is the variety finder at the level of the CPVO and the Pluto database that enables searches of key information that is strategic not only for UPOV members but key stakeholders, I think this is a mutual benefit that illustrates this cooperation. And more recently, we also cooperate in the implementation of the system by providing tools, digitalization tools that will enable the implementation of the system at the national level. And in that regard, the CPVO is also playing a key leadership role by joining one of the key modules of these tools, that is the DUS exchange module, where the reports of the CPVO will become available for other UPOV members in order to foster this cooperation and examination. But I will stop here.
How this module will work? You mentioned the US module. In practice, what this will entail for UPOV, for CPVO, for stakeholders?
So the key, I would say, benefits is that it's about communication and connecting, because there is already the basis for cooperation and examination is already provided by the UPOV Convention. But this tool will facilitate this cooperation by enabling a request of these reports by the platform that would be available for those members that would like to join, and those UPOV members providing reports for, distinctness, uniformity, stability would be able to provide those reports or even make them available. And they would be also enabling a way to communicate between the different offices, whether the reports are there, they are not yet there, but they will become available later, and who will be in charge of making any payment if applicable. So in a way, it will develop a more, I would say, effective way to implement the system and to grant decisions based on DUS reports from other UPOV members in a more transparent and effective way.
Very clear.
If I may add on what Yolanda was saying, Yolanda, you said that the UPOV has an amazing team. And I would like to add that the amazing team is not only as an office, but your added value is the UPOV members, actually. Because the diversity of the UPOV members, you said 98 states covering 79 members, counting also the regional organizations such as the EU or OAPI in Africa. And this add a lot of diversity in the family of UPOV. And since I'm working in this field, I feel kind of a member of this family, because you meet a lot of interesting people in this circle, and it gives back a lot. And when we speak about synergies, it's clear that the CPVO has a very prominent role, and the EU. We run the biggest regional PVR system, regional system in the world. And there is a lot of interaction, as Yolanda said, in terms of technical and legal guidance in the field of harmonization of best practices, which are all based on the UPOV standards and the UPOV principles. So through the so-called technical working parties, for instance, worldwide experts gather together to discuss both legal and technical matters. And I would say that harmonization is one of the most important achievements of the UPOV framework, because it allows members to work on the same level of principles that can be adapted in the different countries and in the different realities. And the UPOV Convention provides the flexibility for members and new members to adapt the legal framework and the technical framework to their national reality.
You were mentioning harmonization. Do you see UPOV's role in fostering global cooperation also in these terms in the plant variety realm with these technical working groups which deal with different laws in different countries, different ways of performing tests? What is your overarching goal here?
I would like to reinforce what Francesco mentioned about working together with UPOV members and key stakeholders. This is really making a difference. I will say there is one thing really specific in the UPOV procedure to become a UPOV member. The future UPOV members, when they are ready and they wish to commit to the UPOV membership process, they actually have a treaty obligation to present the law or the draft law that provides the basis for plant variety protection in order to request the governing body of UPOV, the UPOV Council, to see whether the provisions in the law are in conformity with the UPOV Convention. And only if the country receives a positive advice on the UPOV Convention in relation to the law, the country can deposit the instrument of accession and become UPOV member. So as you can imagine, that requires a level of commitment because it implies changes in legislation, putting in place an implementation procedure, stakeholders consultations. And in this regard, I would say at the global level, we have really counted with a really key engagement of the European Union and the CPVO in awareness raising activities, sometimes study tours to show the benefits for farmers and growers of, UPOV members in relation to these particular matters. But also, I would say, in being aware of understanding how the global solutions that the UPOV system provides addresses local needs and aspirations. And in that regard, I would like to appreciate the cooperation both and support on raising awareness, but also in the implementation level in relation to new UPOV members in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, where different European Union projects and programs have been very supportive and been working together in a very effective way.
Because indeed, you are, when you are on your study tours, I suppose that one of the goals is to raise awareness, the other is to help these countries that want to access the system, getting closer to your standards. If you were to explain what are the benefits of plant variety rights for small breeders, farmers all around the world, what would be?
Thank you very much for this question, because this is one of the areas where there is a little bit less awareness. I would say in general, when a country takes a policy decision that becoming a UPOV member is of national interest, is because there is the majority of the cases actually no real breeding taking place in the country, or if the breeding takes place is at the level of public research institutes. And in some cases in these countries, the public funding available in the public research institutes for developing new varieties is becoming more reduced and limited. So one of the benefits of introducing an effective system of plant variety protection and becoming a UPOV member is offering an enabling environment for a diversity of breeders. I bring the matter that Francesco mentioned before about diversity. So that means individual researchers, scientists, or farmers can become breeders. And this is example we can see in Uruguay. There are good example on rice breeders that are individuals. We have also the example of farmer breeders in Netherlands, potato breeders, for example, or in Vietnam, breeders of orange or also rice. So there are many of these examples. Sometimes they are not very well known. And back to the farmers. There is a great majority of new UPOV members where they actually, the way that the farming is organized in the country is in general a small commercial farmers or small scale farmers, and some cases even subsistence farmers. And this is why the availability of improved varieties, in some cases to address some of the key challenges now that the farmers are facing, in order to address or mitigate climate change, this is key. And you can imagine in the case of Africa, around 70% of the work employment relies on the agricultural sector, and the majority of those farmers are small farmers. So the fact that there would be available new plant varieties for those farmers to choose is one of the key benefits of UPOV membership.
So your point of view, where you stand, which is global, what are the major challenges that you see in plant variety protection today? You mentioned this huge amount of work that has to be done in Africa because 70% of the population is working on agriculture. But do you see other challenges and other way to face them or to mitigate them in your daily work with, again, stakeholders from all over the world?
The key challenges we see sometimes is how we can ensure that we can explain better what we do in order to maximize, the role of plant variety protection and its role to enable better life and better climate. We realize that sometimes it's not very well known the role of, I would say, innovation in breeding and in the agricultural sector. We do see that even following new developments, for example, in relation to new technologies and how these new technologies will have an impact on the plant variety protection is one of the challenges. We are also addressing that as solutions because, as you may be aware, there have been a new developed guidance on essentially the right varieties in order to ensure that the understanding of this concept really reflects the latest developments in technology. And that is, for example, one of the ways to address those challenges, to continue create this space for further harmonization. Another challenge is how to pursue the creation of common ground when faced with apparently conflicting perspectives. Yes, what I mean about that is sometimes in other international fora, especially also in countries where maybe access to new plant varieties is not that known, and sometimes there is maybe a misunderstanding about the role of plant variety protection in relation to all varieties, local varieties, or other types of genetic resources that are not under protection. So this is one of the key areas where we need to understand better the particular situations of those countries and how, while introducing incentives to create new plant varieties or to protect those varieties and commercialize those varieties, in parallel, there are also measures that are taking place in relation to conservation of genetic resources or conservation of the material that is pre-existed in the country. And those matters are separate, but they are complementary. So both are very important. And we are working together with other intergovernmental organizations like the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture and the FAO and the Convention on Biological Diversity in order to explain better what we do and how the different mandates and the different objectives of these treaties are complementary and supporting each other. And recently we have an FAQ that was developed to further explain this relationship. And this information is available now in the UPOV website.
And Yolanda, when you say conflicting perspectives and the need to reconcile this, we know that from the TRIPS agreement, the field of plant innovation can be protected either by patents or by what we call a sui generis system, which is in fact the UPOV system, or both. And nowadays there is a lot of discussion on the possibility to run a plant variety rights system, and there is also the possibility for certain innovations to get protected by patents. And as you know, there is a lot of debate on these topics. So in essence, we have different intellectual property right systems. The scope of these systems is different, but they may be complementary somehow. UPOV is, as you said at the beginning, you are located in Geneva and you are sharing your office with the World Intellectual Property Organization, right? WIPO. What is your relation with WIPO? I mean, WIPO is a very big agency and belonging to the United Nations, and they also deal with patents, among other intellectual property rights.
Thank you, Francesco. The cooperation between UPOV was and the organization dealing with intellectual property was even before the existence of WIPO as such. Since the beginning, there was a cooperation at the level of administrative arrangements. So in that sense, the two organizations are independent and they have different, as you mentioned, different mandate. They have different member states, different budget, different staff. But we do have this cooperation agreement, and we receive certain services at the financial administration, staff, human resources administration, some procurement service, travel, office space, and we pay for those services received as part of, from the UPOV budget. So there is a very constructive, I would say, collaboration and long-lasting. We also have a clear mandate in relation to plant variety protection. So in that regard, WIPO respects this mandate, and we also respect the mandate of WIPO in other IP rights. For sure, we cooperate and we raise awareness because at the end, the different IT tools and services, as you mentioned, they are really to promote development. In our case, the development is key in the agricultural and horticultural sector, and there are other IP rights that also play a key role in that development, not only patents, but also trademarks, geographical indications, trade secrets. So we do find that sometimes we need to explain also how we play a greater role in the intellectual property community to explain how those different rights work together in a complementarity way. In order to enhance this long-lasting cooperation between UPOV and WIPO, every time there is a new Director General, it is proposed to be elected by UPOV members as Secretary General of UPOV. So nowadays, Darren Tang is both Director General of WIPO and Secretary General of UPOV.
Now that's very interesting because this increased the possibility of interactions also and dialogue between the two organizations, right? And you, in your role, you make the bridge between the two organizations, right?
Yes, we do try to find synergies, especially when it comes to intellectual property developments, future trends. For example, in WIPO, they have this IA dialogue and artificial intelligence dialogues. So to ensure that there is some kind of raising awareness about trends, developments, or questions at different levels, whether at the level of protection, but also at the level of what are the different benefits that these new technologies could bring to the work that we do. And it's true that this is, for example, raising my awareness that it might be useful to have a similar dialogue or space in UPOV where we could also see how artificial intelligence is also assisting some of the work that the breeders are doing and also some of the work that the Plant Variety Protection Office are doing. So you're right, there are also very positive synergies where certain of the discussions, could lead to learning from each other. They also work in certain areas that are relevant for the agricultural sector, and often we are invited to contribute to those programs to bring also the plant variety protection perspective.
And Yolanda, what are you doing in terms of contribution to education? Do you have a learning program? What is your role there?
Thank you very much, because Yeah, we have this amazing team, as you mentioned, not only the UPOV team, the colleagues in the office, but the different UPOV members and stakeholders cooperating with UPOV members that also contributing to the learning. And in addition to the UPOV distance learning courses, we have some introductory courses that are available free of charge to all UPOV members, officials from the UPOV members and experts, whether working at the even public universities, public research institutes, they can register to these courses free of charge. Then the private sector, there is a fee. But then for future UPOV members, we also offer these courses in order to ensure that they also join in the understanding of some of the key concepts that are being implemented at the national level. We have an executive program for policymakers in order to create a space where certain of the key matters are important for the development of agriculture and the role of plant variety protection can be discussed. And we have also regional programs with different countries. For example, we are planning to have a regional program with the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization, ARIPO, and we're very happy that CPVO also will be participating. And this is also to raise awareness of the regional systems that are available in different organizations. And this is one of the areas where, as you said, the expertise of the CPVO in implementing a regional system is very useful for other organizations that are also embarking into that journey. And this is the case with ARIPO, because they will have a protocol that will enter into force for plant variety protection this year. And this is the reason why we are working together with CPVO and ARIPO. I may say there is a new development that is International Plant Variety Protection Certificate being launched this year. And the aim of this certificate is to recognize not only the courses and training provided by UPOV, organized by UPOV, but those training and programs developed and organized by UPOV members that could be part of this program. And then recognizing the acquisition of credits that after a particular student has already acquired 55 credits with the different programs available, then a certificate would be awarded recognizing the knowledge and the expertise. And this is back to your point. It's about bringing all these resources together in order to benefit the majority of, I would say, the UPOV community.
That's very crucial for me, and also in terms of, let's say, exploiting what we have, because we have among our community of members a lot of expertise and a lot of different experiences. You may remember, Yolanda, some time ago we made a survey among also UPOV members on the opportunity of creating a cross-functional master program that would put together not only the technical side, because you know better than I that in different countries in the world there is a lot of expertise. Now I'm thinking at Wageningen in the Netherlands, but not only there, for the technical side of breeding, bringing innovation to the field by making plant breeding. But we were thinking of something that put together also the regulatory side, the legal side, communication, economic, license managing. And you may remember, Yolanda, the course we developed with this European Union project, IPK Latin America, on making available knowledge transfer from public institutes, among them, and SMEs and companies, these license courses. And this makes me thinking that anytime we made, let's say, a workshop on that topic, we had a very huge number of participants. This shows that there is a need. This shows that there is a room for education and also to bring to this field and to guarantee that we will have more breeders in the future, because we need breeders. And we need people able to make the connection between the scientific side and the legal side, and not to think in silos. You have been dealing with learning programs before you took over the role of that you have now, and you dealt a lot with candidate countries and also countries that are already members. So what is your souvenir of all these activities in the countries, in the field, where you met people, you met students, you met national research centers and breeders? Can you share with us your feelings in this area?
Quite a challenge question because there are some common elements that I could identify in different countries. The level of need to awareness raising, and as you said, to be exposed to the different dimensions of this work, both at the policy level, legal, technical, is important. But then the circumstances of each country are different. And what I realized as challenge and opportunities, and this is what has led to this development of this international PVP certificate, is that the challenge is that there is a lot of rotation of staff because there are changes, sometimes changes in the government, people retiring, new people coming on board. So the constant need of continuous learning is there. Then also you have different challenges in countries where the size of the country is very big. And even in the case, for example, the European Union, when you have different member states. So sometimes to have an assurance that in relation to some of these key matters, there is a common language and common understanding, both of the legal, the technical, is quite difficult. So that's another, I would say, benefit that I see on this international PVP certificate, to ensure that there is this access for those countries that even internally is also quite difficult to, and we have some programs in particular, for example, with China to address that. But then there is the matter that you raise about collaboration at the academic level, because we are in contact with different academic institutions that have agreed or are committed to introduce plant variety protection in their curriculum. And I will say this is also the key, because you mentioned about events and workshops, activities that take a lot of resources to organize, but sometimes it's a particular momentum in the country because they need to take a decision about UPOV membership or they are implementing the system. But then it's a one-off. What happens with the academic collaborations is because there is a commitment to keep it in the program for the next years and to continue, raising awareness of key developments. And it is quite difficult to get that commitment in the particular, I would say, university program. But when it is there, it is quite useful, because that means the program will evolve over time, and we realize now there are more of these programs, and we like even to add them in the international PV certificate for the part relevant on plant variety protection, to also enhance some level of recognition of their contribution and their commitment. But we are looking for more of these programs, not only in Europe, but also in Asia and Africa in particular. We realize that we need to reach out more to the academic institutions in those areas where there would be future UPOV members, because as you said, this is the generation that will play a key role at the leadership level, whether in the private or public sector.
Yeah, and that's why creating a sort of a master, we are thinking of an instrument of the European Union in education, which is called Erasmus Mundus, which is I may say, the perfect fit for what you are saying, because it allows exchanges between students with different background and different geographical areas. So we are really aiming at offering something which is global, and we think globally and we act locally. As you can remember, we heard
Yes,
in
I
a
do.
recent trip we did together, You remember this person who said, "We think globally and we act locally," and this should be our motto in a way. Yeah?
Francesco, Yolanda, you mentioned the necessity of raising awareness, and you told us the vast array of communication product you already put in place. If you were to pick just one, the most effective, because it seems to me that you are talking to the government level, to the agricultural level, you are trying to get to have all stakeholders involved, as you should. But what is the most effective way you found out to raise this awareness? I have the feeling that it is academia.
Well, there are many tools that we can use, and none should be in a way prevail on others. But from what we see, we are increasingly active in social media, and we have to make the best out of these tools and new technologies. So I'm engaged also personally in order to raise awareness. Yes, because there is a tremendous need for communication and more communication on these topics to avoid, let's say, conflicting perspectives, as Yolanda said at the beginning. So communication can be channeled with different tools, as you know very well. And one of the channel that we use, for example, is LinkedIn, because it allows us to reach a very broad, diversified public among not only our stakeholders, but also connecting with those who are not connected yet with us.
I have to say it's quite tricky question, because it's about, in a way, it's a request-driven process. The ownership of the process is the country that, I was recently, for example, in Rwanda, and the request to come to Rwanda was because smallholder farmers need access to new plant varieties. Most of these farmers rely on rain for the crops that they are growing. And with the current situation, with the changes in the climate, the reduce of rainfall is really affecting, the way that they are addressing some of these situations. So the access to new varieties that will be addressing, in some cases, drought, or in some cases, this lack of water is key. So when I was engaging with these conversations, I had conversations both at the policy level with the two ministers that have responsibility in this area, but also at the working level with the office responsible for granting plant variety protection. But also the conversations were involving the key stakeholders, the breeders and the seed associations, also the farmers associations. So in a way, I think when the country is already at that level of preparing a roadmap where they are in relation to the development of the agricultural sector, what are the opportunities they see to increase, the production of food or flowers, depending on whether the crops that are priority for the country, to meet the needs of their own population, to meet, especially also in some cases, like the case of Rwanda, they're also looking into exports to other countries. So there is part of, I would say, a policy dialogue, but very close also with those who will be the beneficiaries, because they are also involved in this dialogue. And those circumstances are quite rare. You don't really find all the time those circumstances that both the policy level and the beneficiaries are into a very synergetic way working together. So they are beyond the work that we do, I would say, but it's just being there, being able to also assist in the right way in relation to their own priorities. And in some cases, we also realize that one of the key challenges once the policy decision is made is how to implement the plant variety protection system, because the resources available, back to the training, the awareness, is different in different countries. So one of the most effective, I would say, tools, once the policy decision has been taken about implementing an effective system of plant variety protection and making the changes in the law to enable that, is a recent tool that is developed in UPOV that is called UPOV EPVP. And UPOV EPVP, it really provides the basis with it's kind of a web system, e-system to implement plant variety protection from the examination of applications to the grant. And this is based on blockchain technology. But the beauty of it is that it has been developed at the UPOV level and can be made available at the national level with only very few onboarding, I would say, costs, because the modules are already available to be implemented directly at the national level. And that we can see that it makes a difference for countries that may have limited resources, financial, human, or IT resources to implement a system. And is one of the key, I would say, messages I would like to transmit is about not leaving anyone behind. And in that regard, we also see how we cooperate with, for example, CPVO in this regard, because we are engaging with countries that are going to use, the DUS reports available by the CPVO. So if, for example, a breeder from Netherlands is filing for a rose variety in Ghana, would be able to use this DUS exchange model that we discussed before to purchase this DUS report very easily and to provide the basis for grantee protection by the Plant Variety Protection Authority in Ghana. So this is one of the examples I would like to convey, that part of this international cooperation translates into easy systems to be implemented at the national level thanks to some IT developments.
We spoke about technology, and Yolanda briefly touched upon artificial intelligence. And I was thinking, Yolanda, what is your vision for the future of UPOV and its role, again, in the global agriculture field?
My vision is that UPOV plays a more active role, both at the engagement and communication level. So our role is better understood within and outside the UPOV community. I'm thinking about, there are a lot of discussions where plant variety protection is relevant at the level of the IP community, and sometimes we are not known. Also in relation to the trade community that have a key role for trade, and plant variety protection is an enabler for commercialization, licensing, as Francesco mentioned. The agricultural community, where innovation is key to bring some of the benefits and to reach out the farmers and growers. So that, I would say, would be my vision. And I would like that at the end we can engage more easily with key, I would say, organizations that play a role in this area. It could be the World Trade Organization, the FAO, the CBD, the World Farmers Organization. We already have very good work in relationship with the organizations representing breeders. But even reaching out to farmers, sometimes these breeders also have a challenge to understand really what farmers need, and listening directly from the farmers. I think that would be my vision for UPOV, that we are part of the solution on how we can produce better with less water, less land, in order also to preserve the environment, and being understood in those other fora as being part of the solution and joining that conversation. That would be what I would wish for UPOV in the future, and working together with, I would say, greater number of UPOV members and stakeholders.
Thank you, Yolanda. You partially replied to to my last question, that was indeed, what are the future goals and the shared ones perhaps between CPVO and UPOV, but you already mentioned being part of the solution. I assume this is one of them.
The other one, and I think we are really having a common goal, because we realize that we have limited resources to sometimes address the increased demand of assistance on awareness raising activity on the benefits of plant variety protection. And once the policy decisions are taken by those countries in ensuring that we can provide the adequate support for implementation matters, because for these countries it's also a journey. And we realize that providing assistance in developing a legislation or in awareness raising is not enough, because at the end they also need to implement the system in an effective way and also address some of the challenges if their rights are not respected through effective enforcement measures. So it is that, I think, it's also a challenge and probably a common goal, because due to the limited resources we have, we need to reach out to other partners and funding, I would say, institutions that are keen to, support this vision.
My dream is to make the system available for the broadest and the most diversified community of breeders, because who can be a breeder? Everyone can be a breeder. So if we reach out, if we have a small farmer understanding that through the hard work you can breed new varieties, you can bring the benefit of the new varieties to the community, back to the community, and the PVR system can support that. It can. So that would be our biggest achievement and making the dream reality.
Thank you for joining us today. A special thanks to our guests who shared their insights with us. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Stay tuned and continue to be part of our journey through the complex and captivating landscape of Seeds of Tomorrow. Until then, keep engaging with us on our social media platforms. Your thoughts and questions make our discussions richer. Goodbye for now. This is Alessio Laurentiis signing off.